Welcome everyone to the Planning, Regulatory and Licensing Committee meeting of Wednesday the 16th of September, and our legal officer Fran Dolney will read out the part there about recording of this meeting.
Hello all. Please note that this meeting of the Planning, Regulatory and Licence Committee will be recorded for subsequent broadcast via the authority's intranet site. The images and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the authority. At the start of the meeting, the Chair will confirm if all or part of the meeting is being recorded. The public seating areas, located at the back, will be in view of the camera, and by entering the chamber and by using the public seating area, members of the public are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings outlined above. Please also turn off your mobile phones as it adversely affects the recording equipment.
Thank you. Can I also remind members, if they are moving or seconding any item on the agenda, can they please indicate to me rather than not use the microphone system? Okay. Right, got the agenda. Any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, we've received apologies from Brian Mansbridge and Ernie Goldsworthy.
I think we're all here then, council members, apart from those. So, item 2, any declarations of interest? Oh, there are none. And we go to the open session and the planning applications. First then, there is item 3, and it's P/15/0087, Blanche House, Blanche Street, Dowlas, Merthyr, Tydfil, and it's to consider report of the Corporate Director, Place and Transformation, and it's pages 1 to 10, and here we're taking this one.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, this is an application, an outline plan application for the erection of a dwelling. There have been no objections as a result of the consultation exercise undertaken. As a result of the publicity exercise undertaken, one letter of objection has been received, and an 11 signature petition has also been received. In summary, the main objections relate to the increased volume of traffic and its detrimental impact on highway safety. There are also concerns relating to the loss of privacy, light, amenity, green open space and biodiversity. As members will note, the Highways and Engineering Manager has not raised any objection to the proposal. Furthermore, in 2006, a previous application for a single dwelling at this site was considered acceptable in terms of its impact on highway safety. However, this application was refused because it was considered unacceptable backland development. As pointed out on page 5 of the report, there has been a significant change in policy since, both national and local, since this decision was issued. Taking current policy into account, it is considered that a dwelling could be developed on the site without harming the character and appearance of the area or the amenities of surrounding residents. Given this, the application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions highlighted on 7, 8 and 9 of this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Questions from members? Councillor Chaplin.
Thank you, Chair. Could we have an indication of what the significant changes in policy have been? Because I noticed that proposed residential development on this particular site has been refused on 3 previous occasions.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks, Councillor Chaplin. Yeah, on page 5 of the report, on the top of page 5, it suggests that the site is within the settlement boundary and therefore the principle of the development is acceptable. The previous refusal related to a backland development, which was, I think, contrary to the old policies in the local development plan. Personally, I struggle with the refusal reason on backland development because I don't think this is backland development anyway, because it's accessed off a highway to a single house. Backland development to me is accesses between houses on the garden areas behind those houses. So it's not backland development to me. It's in a sustainable location. It doesn't harm the character and appearance of the area, and therefore it accords with policy BW7 of the local development plan that looks at dwellings that are acceptable in those contexts.
Councillor Chaplin.
I notice on page 4 there seem to be a large number of policies you're quoting for determination of this application. But as you've just said, the main one is basically within, because the location is within the settlement boundaries. What relevance have some of the others, like BW17, one dwelling, AS22, affordable housing contributions? Well, for one dwelling, those policies would not seem to be relevant.
They are relevant, but in this circumstances, it's not considered that obviously a single dwelling there isn't any need for affordable housing contributions from a single dwelling, because it'd make the proposal unviable to build, basically. But they are relevant. But yeah, some of those policies obviously have a lot more weight than other policies.
Councillor Chaplin.
So just to come back to it, basically it's the major difference between then and now is policy BW4, settlement boundaries, because it's within the settlement boundary. That's the reason for your recommendation this evening.
No, I suspect it was in the settlement boundary previously. I think that the main difference is BW7. There's a strong emphasis on looking at the context of the site and how the dwelling at this location would fit in with the context of this site. As I said, the previous refusal reason was quite specific, that was refused on backland development. My opinion is that this isn't backland development. It's a dwelling located adjacent to an existing dwelling, which is accessed off a highway and the driveway of the existing dwelling. Backland development, to me, is development that's behind existing forms of development that you can access. It was done a lot in England and Wales, where you demolished a house in a row of houses to get access to the rear of the site. So that to me was backland development. This development has to be considered in the context of the development, in the context, the context of the area and the character and appearance of the area. In my opinion, this location is acceptable for a single dwelling.
Any other questions, members? Councillor Simon Williams.
Thank you, Chair. If I could ask for a site meeting, please, for this application. Some of these concerns by the residents of Blanche Street and Cross Blanche Street are quite considerable. They're worried about highway safety and the potential for accidents, and they feel that if this application went ahead, then these issues would be exacerbated. Could the site meeting be as late as possible in the day, so that members would be able then to see the kind of congestion that the residents have had to put up with up to the present day, and they feel these will worsen if the application is approved?
That's been moved. Is there a seconder to it? Oh, I put Councillor Gareth Lewis and just made it Councillor Chaplin. It's been moved and seconded. Right. Yeah, I can come into that now. Could you indicate which officers you wish to attend, Councillor Williams?
Oh yeah, thank you. Could we please have the traffic manager and the highways manager there at the site meeting, please?
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded that we have a site meeting there in Blanche Street. Nobody else has indicated anything. Can we now please vote? So you're voting for or against the site meeting? That is carried, and we will look at the timing of it, Councillor Williams, and see what we can do to accommodate your request. Okay? Thank you. Back to the agenda. Next item is P/15/0169, and that's the land at Combargood Bogey Road, Mountain Air, to consider the report of the Corporate Director, Place and Transformation, and it's pages 11 to 26, and David Cross, who's going to take us through this particular report.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, this is a full planning application which relates to a proposed solar farm on approximately 15 hectares of agricultural land. The site is situated on the eastern edge of the county borough, adjacent to the Cumbargoy disposal point, which forms part of the Fossafran development. The proposed development is for a 5 megawatt solar farm involving the erection of lines of photovoltaic panels laid in modules across the site, with a total of 28,952 panels being provided, and they're essentially mounted on steel frames and sort of pile driven into the ground about 1.5 metres, and would protrude above the ground then by varying between 2.3 and 2.7 metres. Associated with that development as well, there's the construction of inverter stations, transformers, an access track to the different parts of the site, as well as security fencing and cameras around the perimeter. As a result of the consultation exercise, we've not received any objections either from the internal or external consultees, and since the report was prepared, we've also received a response now from Caerphilly County Borough Council indicating that they don't have any objection. That's of particular interest because this application borders the boundary to Caerphilly's authority, of which there is a small stretch of an access track from the main road leading to the site, and forms part of a separate application being considered by Caerphilly. I've contacted them today to see where they are in determining that application, and at the moment it's not been determined, so if this is granted permission, at the moment the access will be considered by Caerphilly still. As part of the publicity exercise, we did have 2 letters of objection received. One was from the Gechigera Merthyr Commoners Association, and the other was from Miller Argent at Fossafran. The main issues that were being raised related to the impact on the common land which is being used for grazing, the need for permission from the Welsh Government regarding any development on common land. I should point out the common land only actually affects the small access track leading to the site. The actual development itself is not on, the main part of the development isn't on commons land. And the other issues raised then was the impact on electricity supply serving Fossafran, impacts on the right-of-way, potential glare impacts from the solar panels, and the proximity of the development to explosives which are stored in the Cumbargoy disposal point. I should point out that a Section 38 agreement has now been applied for to the Welsh Government, which is to carry out works on common land, and as a result of that, the Commoners Association have now withdrawn their objections. So much of the points raised initially have now been withdrawn. As such then, so for the reasons set out in the planning considerations on pages 17 to 24 of the report, it's considered that the development would be acceptable and wouldn't have a detrimental effect on the environment, and as such it's recommended it be approved subject to 7 conditions which are set out on pages 24 to 26.
Thank you. I'll ask my question first. It might be the same one, I don't know. On page 22, there is a paragraph there about glint and glare impacts, and you state in the report, David, that the report indicates the development would not result in a disturbing glare effect to the train drivers along the mineral railway line, nor would it impact on the railway signalling system. Can you perhaps explain that a little bit more to myself and the committee?
The position of the solar panels have got a southerly aspect, and the railway line which leads up to Fossafran sort of comes across the southern part of the site. Initially, as part of the application, we had a holding objection from Network Rail because they were concerned that drivers along there may not react appropriately to the signals along the railway line. So the developer carried out a further study to see the effects on that, and it was concluded that there would be no concerns for the drivers, to which then Network Rail removed their objection.
Councillor Smart.
Thank you, Chair. I got a brief question, Dave. As regards on page 11, can you explain exactly where this site is? Because on the map, I don't know whether that track there is a road, a railway. Can you give us some clear indication of the actual site itself, please?
Yeah. Okay. So on that plan before you, the number of lines that are going along the left-hand side, that's the railway line, which serves the Fossa Fran. I don't know if, well, you presume you know where the coal disposal point is. So the boundary of that is along the top of the page there. So that this site actually abuts the coal disposal point. So to gain access, you'd go, well, from here you'd go up along Bogey Road. When you get to the end and you turn right, where you've got the access in into the coal disposal point, just a little bit further along would lead to the track then, which cuts across a bit of a field to the site.
Is that that's the track with currently has some huge boulders in the way of it? Is that the one? On the bend?
No, that's a bit further down. That's like a more of a kind of there's a right of way or bridle way across that bit. This is like, to be honest, if to drive past it, you wouldn't almost notice it really. It's yeah. The track at the moment is just mainly it's just like small like rocks just forming like an agricultural track, I suppose.
Hugh, I think, wants to come in.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Smart. Yeah, the plan on the page isn't particularly helpful, as it doesn't really show a lot. So I think what we'll do, we'll take that back with us, and if we've got big applications in the future, we'll reduce the scale of it so we can see the surrounding area as well on the plan, because as you say, that doesn't really show you a lot apart from a couple of lines on a plan. But yeah, we'll thanks for that and highlighting that, but we'll look at it.
Councillor Smith and then Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Chair. I think the officer read my mind. We've got IT system now, far better than with these maps. And I think not only this committee, every committee want to start having better maps. So we can say, you can Google it, and you can see every little bit that's shown there without looking at this. So can we start looking at different ways how to get a better mapping system for us all to ever see? Because this is the Romans' days, isn't it? To be honest, shocking.
No, absolutely, and Judith Jones and myself are also looking at a presentation as well that actually, because we've gone to the website as well in terms of the visuals, we've got to try and tie in the presentation of the application with the website. So it's potential that we can have plans to look at as well as better site location plans, and also potentially photographs on there as well, so you get a better idea of the site. But we're looking at that. And that's going on in the background, but it's at the moment we're looking how we link it to the webcam as well. So it is going on in the background, but yeah, in these days, in this day and age, yeah, we need a better system, definitely. Thanks.
Councillor Alan George.
Thank you, Chair. David, you did say about some concerns had been expressed about electricity supply. Obviously, a continuous electricity supply is important to these people up there. Are there any real concerns about electricity supply? Have the power people said that there could be a problem, or is it just one of those things? Because I think if it's going to be erected and it could cause electricity supplies, well, there are big concerns up there then, is there?
Yeah, it wasn't quite clear in the objection what their issue was in terms of electricity supply, because obviously this development is adding to the electricity supply rather than taking away from the network. But I suppose that the only thing I can assume is that they were concerned that whilst connections are being made, that there may be disruption to the electricity supply in the area. The actual site is being connected to the existing pylons, I think, within the site itself. So, but that's really more a matter for Western Power to sort of address with the two demands. but in this case, they didn't object anyway to the application. So, yeah.
Sorry, Chair. I don't suppose it's Western Power's real worry if the site is off for a week while they do the works. It's not their real concern, is it? But it is the concern of the people who are living near the site then. So could that be, you know, I wouldn't want anything going ahead if it's going to cause big problems to other people.
Hugh?
Yeah, I suspect it is a Western Power concern if they've got the electricity off for a week or two. They obviously want to do it. They want to do it as quickly as possible. But Dave is right. There's wherever you've got a wind farm or a solar farm that needs to connect into the system, then there's there's actually a list to Western Power that they got to do in a certain period of time. And where you are on that list is when you can actually connect. So they've got their own systems in place to ensure those kind of connections are done correctly.
Councillor Williams first, or Councillor Williams, then Councillor Smith, and then Councillor Chan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm at the bottom of page 20. Could you tell me what the appropriate boundary treatments are which may limit the views of the development, particularly where it is seen close up? Thank you.
Well, I've had some discussions with our landscape architect on the best way to deal with that, because obviously the area itself is quite sparse of much of the landscaping in terms of plants and trees and things like that. I suspect the approach we'd be expecting would be for existing stone boundary walls to be upgraded and improved. There may be opportunities to introduce or replace some of the existing sort of post and wire fences and mesh fences with something more appropriate. So they'll obviously, as part of the application, there's a condition to request details of that so that we can get a scheme that we're happy with.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I want to know what's the benefits for this. Now, you know, we put in this, you see all these through the UK, and they're all building everywhere. So what's the benefit do we get out there for the County Borough of Merthyr to do? Do some parts get the free electric that come through the grid, or vice versa? So, I'm just
Well, I mean, in terms of the application itself, we can only ask for contributions if it's for a planning need. So through Section 106 is, for instance, to address ecological impacts or highway implications. But for this application, they have offered to provide a community benefit in the form of a commutable sum, which would have to be on a voluntary basis outside of this application. So it's something that you can't really take into account with this application. But I've put them in contact with the Voluntary Action Merthyr Tydfil group, who have got like a local community trust which is set up where they can manage grants and things like that to help other organisations in the authority.
Chaplin? Councillor Chaplin?
Thank you, Chair. The question I want to ask is in respect of the concerns that the glare from the development would impact on the Cambargo disposal point.
Sorry, say that again. You want to know what the what?
How will the glare from this development impact on the Cambargo disposal point?
I'm of the view it's not going to have any impact at all because the solar panels are orientated with a southerly aspect. The glare is created where the sun level reaches a certain position in the sky and creates a reflection off the top of the solar panels. So because the Cambargoid site is to the north of the development, there wouldn't be any glare because the panels would be facing the opposite way.
Councillor Barrett and then Councillor Smart.
Thank you, Chair. In you talk earlier, David, you mentioned explosives. Why haven't the police been consulted on that? Or was it?
Well, it's only come about through the objection that there was an issue potentially for explosives, but looking at from the consultations from environmental health, there's no concerns there. But notwithstanding that, there's other regulations that would be in place for the secure storage of any explosives, and to be honest, if there was a concern for a development to go next to the site because of explosives, there'd be a concern for anyone who's just wanting to walk through the site equally. So I don't think that's the case. I would have thought that the explosives are stored in an appropriate manner, which shouldn't affect the site.
Is there another question?
Yeah, okay, I agree with that. But I know for a storage explosive container that was in my ward, but the site was monitored by the police regular, and also there were signs on that area to say that explosives were in that area. Is it something? Is it not in this area, or it is in the area?
Hugh Roberts will come in this one.
I'm assuming it's the disposals for the blasting site, isn't it? So that the health and safety executive will have their own control over that site. This particular site won't have any explosives, so it'll be the legislation from the health and safety executive on the existing site to make sure that their explosives are secure and in appropriate places and bundled in appropriate places. So it's the responsibility is with where the explosives are rather than this site, 'cause this site won't affect the explosives.
You don't seem happy with the reply.
Sorry, Chair. I accept what you're saying, but it was brought up about explosives. It wasn't in the report. I know the objectors probably said about explosive, but this site is additional to where the explosives are kept in a reasonable distance, I suppose. So surely they should have been consulted. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think it's a police matter, though. I think it's a matter for the health and safety executive. It's not. I don't think it's a police matter.
Councillor Smart?
Thank you, Chair. Just a brief question as regards the consultees. Were Billinock and Lewis Community Council consulted?
David will answer.
No, I didn't, because of the location of the development. I don't believe that the Bedlam Community Council were consulted.
I take it the site is actually in the Billinock ward, so if it is, then they should be on the, it's not in the ward?
It's in the Downes ward.
I thought you might have known that, Councillor Smart. Any other questions, members? No other questions? If not, any comments from members? Yes, Councillor Chan.
It's in respect of this glare from the development. Anybody driving past the Cambargo disposal point at night will see what glare is.
Any other comments? No other comments? If there are no other comments, can I have a mover and seconder for the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, since we're all looking for clean power, now we've been criticised all years about the fossil farm site and the dust. Now we all got to change our lookout how we get clean power overall. So I'm going to move the recommendations.
Been moved by Councillor Smith. Councillor Chan.
Second.
Thank you. That's been carried. Our application has been approved. Next item on the agenda is item P/15/0206, 22 Aberfan Road, Aberfan, Merthyr, Tydfil, and that's a consider report of the Corporate Director, Place and Transformation, and it's on pages 27 to 32. And Hugh is going to take us through this report.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is an application for the change use of the ground floor and basements to two-number flats. There's been no objections as a result of the consultation exercise undertaken. As a result of the publicity exercise undertaken, one letter has been received. In summary, the main objections are there will be a loss of on-street parking, there will be increased noise and disturbance to surrounding residents, there will be an increase in antisocial behaviour. A similar proposal was historically refused on grounds of loss of commercial unit and existing parking issues in Aberfan. With regard to the objections raised, these have been fully considered and outlined on pages 30 and 32 of the report. The Highways and Engineering Manager has raised no objections in terms of highway safety or parking provision. It is considered that flats would result in a reduction in noise and disturbance when compared to the permitted uses of the units. The objector is referring to a refusal over 20 years ago. Since this time, there's been significant change in planning policy again. So therefore, for the reasons outlined in the report, the proposal is considered acceptable and compliant with the relevant policies of the local development plan, is therefore recommended for permission.
Thank you. Any questions from members? No questions? Any comments? No comments? If not, could I have member to move the recommendation, which is on page 32? Councillor Chaplin. Will you speak a bit? Councillor Williams.
I'd like to second this recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Can you now please vote? That's been carried. That application's approved. We now go to item 6, P/15/0222, land off Getligare Road, Trelewis, Treharris, and again is to consider report of the corporate director, place and transformation, and it's on pages 33 to 40. And David's going to take us, or you, it's change of plan. Here.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this application is for the erection of 14 houses. It's actually a replan of plots 120, 122 to 135, following, committee may recall, a larger plan application which was P130192 for in excess of 100 dwellings. There have been no objections as a result of the consultation or publicity exercise undertaken. This application, as I said, is simply a replan of part of the residential site, which would result in the loss of one dwelling when compared to the previous approval. I think the overall site now is 171 dwellings rather than 172 dwellings. The revised layout and house type are considered acceptable. Indeed, they're already built on part of the wider site anyway, and would have no impact on residential amenity. As stated on page 37 of the report, it is necessary to bind the developer to the previous planning obligations. As such, it is recommended that the application be approved subject to the conditions highlighted on page 38 and 39, and the applicant enter into a further Section 106 agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Who? Councillor Smart.
Thank you, Chair. I got no problem with this application, Chair. Just one thing on page 33 again, the map. It states on the second paragraph that this phase lies to the northeast of an existing playground at number 6 to 11 Pandy View. I take it that the dark outlined shape is the actual phase we're talking about. Well, that doesn't tie up with the texture, because the existing playground is off the map to the south. So there's some sort of discrepancy here as to where this phase actually is, because if you look at the housing on the bottom bottom left hand corner, that's where Pandy View is. So it doesn't edge onto that, does it? So I just want a bit of clarity, that's all, Chair, because it doesn't tie in with what is said in the text.
Who?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, the text says this phase lies to the northeast of the existing playground. Yeah, the playground is to the southwest of the site, so the site is to the northeast of the playground, but it is off the map. I appreciate that. Yeah.
And it is also bounded east by the tree line Nankaya stream. Well, the Nankaya stream is on the right of the map, so it's not bound by that, is it? You know, I'm just looking for some accuracy, if you see what I mean, Chair. Not being pedantic, like, but we have to have these things accurate for members to make an informed decision. So I hope the officers will take that on board. I do have a question on Colston Tees again. This is actually in the Bidlanog and Lewis ward, and we used to have a policy at one time that Bidlanog and Lewis Community Council was always asked for observations. Does that policy still stand or not?
Sorry, I need to check the file. What ward is actually? I thought it was Trelewis ward. It is.
Well, it's
Bedding on
Community Council
Trelewis.
covers Trelewis and Bidlanog.
Okay. Let me just check the file to see whether it's been consulted.
But whilst the officers are looking for that plan, just to reassure the members, because one member, Councillor Barrett, spoke to me before the meeting and it's been brought up by Councillor Smith, we will be looking at the sketch plans so that it gives you, hopefully, photographs there so that we can distinguish exactly what is where on that. So that will be looked at, and I'll follow with that up with the planning staff.
No, it doesn't look like they have been consulted, but the consultations on this application would have been exactly the same on the previous applications, so they may not have been consulted on the previous applications either.
There we go.
There we are, working now. We used to, as an authority, as a planning authority, consult with Bidlanog and Lewis Community Council on every application that took place in that ward. I don't think they were asked for objections or anything of that nature, but they were certainly asked for observations. I don't know how often they replied. I suspect not very often. But this fact was that was a due process we used to follow. So can we check with the I don't know if we have some sort of legal requirement to consult with the community council, but we used to, and I've noticed recently that we no longer do so.
Yeah, we can. I'll check with that, Councillor Smart, and come back to you. I mean, going back to your original point, I think the text in the paragraph you're reading there is relating to the wider site rather than that small area site. So it's relating to the whole of the site rather than just that little area of land.
Thank you for that. But it says this phase, see, and I assume that this phase we're talking about the highlighted area, you see, rather than the whole site. You see, so it's just clarity is all here. I haven't got a problem with the application. I think, you know, I will move it. But I think members need to know what we're looking at. And I know the chair has said that we are looking at photographs and changing the format of this, which I think will benefit members in the long term because we'll have a clear idea what we're making decisions on. So thank you for that anyway. Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Just to come back on that, the Phase 1B development of 124 houses, the 14 plots are located at the northeastern boundary of Phase 1B. This phase lies to, so it's talking about the Phase 1B. So it's highlighted in there what the Phase 1B is.
Okay. Thank you for that, Hugh. I've obviously misread it.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. The first bullet point on page 37 indicates an education contribution of 250,000. Who benefits from that contribution, please?
The Education Department, yeah. I think from memory, the Section 106 agreement says to spend on educational facilities within close proximity to the application site, yes.
Just for clarity, you were asking whether it was going to have to be spent locally or elsewhere the county borough. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted we got some 106 money from this development. But what's different with this development to the previous one? You said you couldn't ask for the 106 on that one. They had to go to local. I know we can't talk about the one that's gone, but if you want to explain to me after what the difference is, I don't know.
I'll have an answer now.
Yeah, I can explain now. Section 106 agreements have to relate to the development itself. So obviously if you put in 171 houses on the site, then it has an impact on the schools in the area because there's more children in the area to go to the schools, and therefore it's directly related to the application itself. Likewise, we've got local equipped areas, local landscaped areas there. Obviously there's children on the site that have to play, so you have to provide those facilities with the site. So Section 106 agreements are there specifically to mitigate against the impacts of the development. I think David said that if it was considered that the solar farm had a detrimental impact on ecology, then we could have a Section 106 agreement to say they had to do certain ecological issues there. The financial implications of an application are not a material planning consideration, so they need to be considered outside the planning arena.
Okay, Councillor Chap.
When precisely are these contributions going to be made or paid into the council's account?
I haven't got the Section 106 agreement in front of me, but I know, I think we've had the education contribution, and I think a couple of the others have been paid already because the trigger points in the Section 106 agreement have been hit. But if Councillor Chaplin wants to know the definite times for the trigger points for those contributions to be hit, I'll send him a copy of the Section 106 agreement.
Okay. Any other questions from members? No? Any comments, please? No comments? If not, you see the recommendation for this, which is on page 38. Can I ask for a mover?
Move, Chair.
Councillor Smart. Go on.
Seconded, Chair.
So that's been moved by Councillor Smart and seconded by Councillor Lewis. You're all in a position now to vote. Please vote. That's carried. Okay, thank you. We go to other planning reports, which is item 7, and that's the supplementary planning guidance on the design of household development. That's been out to consultation, and it's a considered report of the corporate director, and it's on pages 41 to 66, and there's some nice photographs there. Yeah, David's going to take us through this.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, members will probably recall that the last planning application meeting in May, 27th of May, the Supplementary Planning Guidance 6, a new document, design guide for household development, was approved for consultation. This has taken place now over the last 6 weeks, from the 11th of June to the 23rd of July. In addition to the normal press notice, consultation letters and notice that we place on the website, we also publicised the document on the Cwmtaf Community Engagement Hub, and we also raised the consultation matter during the Agent Forum meeting, which the Planning Department holds every few months. As a result of the consultation exercise, we did have 5 responses received. One was from Councillor Tony Chaplin. We had responses from a Mr Rees, the Glamorgan Gwent Archaeological Trust, the Coal Authority and Natural Resources Wales. The comments and responses to those are set out in Appendix 1. So having considered those responses, it was considered that there was no need to make any changes to the document itself, and so therefore it's now recommended that the post-consultation version of this SPG attached on page 45 onwards should be approved and will form part of the adopted planning policy framework.
Thank you, David. I hope you all read this report. Any questions? No questions? Okay, any comments from members? Yes, Councillor Chaplin.
Thank you, Chair. I've already passed the comment in writing.
We have read it. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chair. The comment I got is, part of the design is some authorities I know do extensions on a certain percentage, but this seems to be more focused. In the past, we've had extensions exceeding previous extension in the area, but this is even more reforms, so I'm delighted with that.
Councillor Williams, you put your hand up? Oh, sorry, I thought you were putting your hand up. Any other questions? Any other questions? No, comments? Comments, no comments? If not, you'll see on page 42, the recommendation is that committee approves the post-consultation version of supplementary planning guidance note number 6, a design guide for household development as part of the adopted planning policy framework. Could I ask for a member to move that recommendation?
Move recommendation, Chair.
That's Councillor Smith. Is there a second? Councillor Chap?
Yes, I second.
Thank you. Can you please vote now? That's carried. Thank you. We go on to information reports, and they are for information. That's item 8 and 9, appeal decision, and number 10, the delegated decision report list from the 1st of July to the 31st of August 2015. The next item is item 11, any other business as deemed urgent by the chair. I have none. The attendance register? Oh, it's already been, you've been ticked in. Yeah. Thank you all for your attendance. I declare the meeting closed.